Hi, welcome to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to painting this cherry blossom in watercolor. I start from the branches of the right top. It's next important part of foreground and the transition between flower and dark background. As I want it to be soft edge, and I use wet on wet technique to make the leaves. I painted the first layer of branches and use masking fluid to cover the flowers because I want to focus on making the dark background next. Some artists may make main subject first and make the background later. In my experience, making dark background first will help you easily hold the tonal value of the painting, since the background will contrast and support the main flowers. To painting a soft and dark background, first wet the paper with clean water and painting start from light pigment for the background, because I want them under the dark pigment so that create slightly change in light and shadow in the dark area, which isn't just a monotonous dark background. I'm painting the first layer of background. For the lower part of it, I use terra verde with a little bit of yellow ochre to get a mixed green. Burnt sienna and yellow ochre get a mixed light brown. For the upper part of it, I use previous mixed brown with a bit of orange to get a lighter brown color. The green color mixed burnt umber to get darker. Let the pigments diffuse and blend naturally on the wet paper. I move on painting the branch. As I wet the paper and further painting the light and shadow color changes of the leaf and branches. As the light setting from the right side of the top, parts of green leaves and orange petals display more vibrant and transparency. So when we make the painting, we can create the effect of light and shadow by contrasting bright, vivid color with dark, desaturated colors. For the petal here, I mix up orange and vermilion into those light shape. Burnt umber and vermilion mixed for the end of the petal. While the painting, we need multiple watercolor technique, as the branches here need to be clear and blurred. I use wet on dry technique for the hard edge of shadow, wet on wet for soft edge of leaves. The branches are backlit here, and I paint a second layer to intensify it. I use burnt sienna with ultramarine to get a mixture. Now, I move on make the dark background of the branch. I mix up with ultramarine, burnt umber, permanent green to get dark green color. Be sure to mix enough pigment to create saturated color, as it's going to diffuse on wet paper, but we want dark background. The things you may need to notice is that when I paint the next layer, I wait the previous layer completely dry, so that avoid the color left from the previous layer. For the second and third layer of background, I rewet it and make my painting board a little inclined. When I paint in the lower background, it makes the color flow down and create a gradient transition on the lower part of painting, which is the effect I hope to achieve. The third layer I mixed up ultramarine, burnt umber, magenta to get a dark black. When the background is done and it is dry, I beg to intensify the branch, make more fuzzy and define shadows. Now, I focus on painting the flowers after I remove the masking film. I'm glazing first layer for the flowers. For the back of out-of-focus 2 flowers, I mix a little bit of yellow ochre and quinacridone rose to get a basic color. The front flower glazing with more quinacridone rose. For the shadow of those flowers, I use yellow ochre, burnt umber, quinacridone rose. Some part with violet or green get a mixture color, and the lighter part I use more rose, less burnt umber to make a lighter color, because the color of the dark petal is not saturated, and is affected by the ambient light of the surrounding leaves. But the brighter petal reflects more of the orange color itself. It often needs several layers to make three-dimensional sense of the flower granularly. I'm moving on painting the main upper side of two flowers with more wet on dry technique, because I want to make defined shape of each petal, and this will contrast with the back flower and background. Beginning with the night shadow of the petals. Some of the shadow have violet tone, others mix a little bit of yellow ochre. Here is the night shadow of this flower. I mix up with rose, burnt sienna, a bit of violet to get a brown tone gray. Wet and dry can create a defined shape of the top edge, and using another clean brush with clean water to blend the lower edge. The thing you may need to know is that when painting the petal, we can't paint adjacent petal continuously, but instead leave a blank space between them, because adjacent color will infiltrate into each other on wet paper, creating unwanted blurred edges. Then I move to painting red ones. I use same step to painting it with a little different light and color for these, as these ones have bright color, and I mix the next pigment for the petals. Just make it more vibrant. For the shadow of the central, I add a little yellow ochre with quinacridone rose, ultramarine with rose to mix up a violet. These two tones make the light and shadow combined warm and cool color tone, so that makes the petal vivid. I apply diluted pigment to get a painting for this flower, so that makes the flower transparent. Once I'm happy with the flowers I painted, I finally focus on the main top flowers. It really takes a long time to make these cherry flowers. During the period of long time painting, we need to take a break and refresh our feeling for make painting. But it also have benefit for making main subject last, because we got experience of how to painting the flowers, what pigment should we use, as well as techniques. It makes you more confidence for making the main subject. Okay, let's back to painting flowers. I rewet paper and make the basic soft shape and shadow of these two flowers. Before I paint petals, I use white masking fluid, cover the stem. After the period layer completely dry, I paint shadow wet and dry, which create defined and clean feeling. Each shadow of the petal have different color changes. For part of shadows that reflect the lower flower's light of petals, I apply a bit of vermilion and yellow lemon, as this can make the flower shiny. Other petals of shadow with violet and nice blue and brown. In this way, make main flower in a warm, vibrant tone. After flowers are done, I beg to check the tonal value of this painting. I think the dark shadow of the lower flower needs strengthening, and I beg to do some adjustment. Everything that serves the tonal value worth to do adjustment. Finally, I move the mask film of the stem and grab a small fine slim brush, painting it carefully. By painting a sharp shadow around the stem to display its slim and massive structure. Thank you for watching, and I hope this video helpful. It would be grateful if you subscribe my channel and leave me a like. Your support is really helping me keeping bringing you new and free watercolor instruction like this.